If you're having trouble changing your habits, the problem isn't you. The problem is your system. Bad habits repeat themselves again and again, not because you don't want to change, but because you have the wrong system for change. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Welcome to Flourish. I'm Diane Planet In, and you're in the right place if you're ready to create an inspired life. And we do so by working on our own personal development, so we can be strong role models for those we love and mentor, and strong for our own personal well-being. And this is all about personal development, because when you're strong, you can be strong for others. And we just finished the series on Robert Greene's book on mastery. Mastery requires patience. Habits require systems. So I'm going to review James Clear's best-selling book called Atomic Habits. I know a lot of people have been wanting to read this book, wanting to make a change, wanting to implement some new systems, and just haven't found the time. So whether you're watching this on the YouTube channel, hey, hit that subscribe button, or listening to the podcast, let's get started. And I'm introducing it chapter by chapter because it takes time to implement systems and digest information. So let's find out what the surprising power of atomic habits really is. Why small habits make a big difference. It is so easy to overestimate the importance of one defining moment and underestimate the value of making small improvements on a daily basis. Too often we convince ourselves that massive success requires massive action. Whether it's losing weight, building a business, writing a book, winning a championship, or achieving any other goal, we put pressure on ourselves to make some earth-shattering improvement that everyone will talk about. Meanwhile, improving by 1% isn't particularly notable. Sometimes it's not even noticeable, but it can be far more meaningful, especially in the long run. So what does that mean to get 1% better? Well, if you got 1% better every day for 1 year, your results would improve over 37%. However, if you continue on a downward trajectory, you'd actually get down to zero. You just keep declining. It's fascinating, isn't it? He says habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. The same way that money multiplies through compound interest, the effects of your habits multiply as you repeat them. When we repeat 1% errors day after day by replicating poor decisions, duplicating tiny mistakes, and rationalizing little excuses, our small choices compound into toxic results. It's the accumulation of missteps, a 1% decline here and there, that eventually leads to problems. And gives an example in the book of a pilot is flying a plane and goes off course just a little bit. Well, he reaches destination. You got to get back on course. And you hear this with athletes all the time. They practice, the Olympics are coming up, they practice for years, 4 years, to run a race that could take, what, a minute? Wow. What? Yeah, that's what it's all about. And it's all about having a system in place in order to get 1% better each day. Little steps, little steps, little steps. He says success is the product of daily habits, not once in a lifetime transformations. But you gotta want it, right? Your outcomes are a lagging measure of your habits. Your net worth is a lagging measure of your financial habits. Your weight is a lagging measure of your eating habits. Your knowledge is a lagging measure of your learning habits. And your clutter is a lagging measure of your cleaning habits. You get what you repeat. Your habits can compound for you or against you. He gives a good example here. Productivity compounds. The more tasks you can handle without thinking, the more your brain is free to focus on other areas. Knowledge compounds. Learning one new idea won't make you a genius, but a commitment to lifelong learning can be transformative. And relationship compound. People reflect your behavior back to you. The more you help others, the more others want to help you. Being a little nicer in each interaction can result in a network of broad and strong connections over time. Now, that is a positive vibe. I absolutely love that. But of course, he does give the example where negative things can also compound against you. Gives the example of stress compounds, the frustration of a traffic jam. By themselves, these little common causes of stress are manageable, but then they persist for years. Little stresses compound into health issues. Negative thoughts compound. Now, that is one thing you really need to work on. I need to work on. The more you think of yourself as worthless, stupid, or ugly, the more you condition yourself to interpret life that way. You get trapped in that loop. Outrage compounds. Mass movements are rarely the result of a single event. Instead, a long series of microaggressions and daily aggravations slowly multiply until one event tips the scales and outrage spreads like wildfire, right? The pull of the crowd. And this is where the connection happens. If you've been listening or watching for a while now, you're going to notice some connections here. That pull of the crowd, how you can get swept up thinking you're really doing something exciting and important, where it's really the pull of the crowd that's leading you. Is it helping you? Is it moving you forward? Or is it just a time waste? Think about that. I'm going to link in the show notes The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene, specifically about that topic. And you'll also notice when he talks about the psychology in this book, I'm going to link my psychology class that I did at Queen's University about how this is nothing new. This is nothing new. This all comes into fruition. It all comes together. But it's so eloquently written in this book. And he goes on to say, breakthrough moments are often the result of many previous actions, which build up the potential required to unleash a major change. This pattern shows up everywhere. Bamboo can barely be seen for 5 years as it builds extensive root systems underground before exploding 90 feet into the air within 6 weeks. 1 degree difference in an ice cube changes it from melting or not melting. 1 degree. Similarly, habits often appear to make no difference until you cross a critical threshold and unlock a new level of performance. In the early and middle stages of any quest, there's often a valley of disappointment. Been there, done that. You expect to make progress in a linear fashion, and it's frustrating how ineffective changes can seem during the first days, weeks, and even months. It doesn't even feel like you're going anywhere. It's a hallmark of compounding process. The most powerful outcomes are delayed. Let me say that again. The most powerful outcomes are delayed. Once you get those negative vibes into your head, it's hard. It takes over, right? It's easy to let good habits fall by the wayside, but in order to make a meaningful difference, habits need to persist long enough to break through a plateau. He calls it the plateau of latent potential. You got to break through that plateau. And as I mentioned, the mastery of this, the mastery of your mind, the mastery of your habits, the mastery of what is actually going on in your life takes time and patience. He says, all big things come from small beginnings. The seed of every habit is a single tiny decision. But as that decision is repeated, a habit sprouts and grows stronger. Roots entrench themselves and branches grow. The task of breaking a bad habit is like uprooting a powerful oak within us. And the task of building a good habit is like cultivating a delicate flower one at a time. So forget about goals. Focus on systems instead. Goals are about the results you want to achieve. Systems are about the processes that lead to those results. What? Forget about goals? Focus on systems? Think about it a little bit differently. Have a goal. Have the end in mind. Absolutely. But the way you're going to reach that in a successful manner is to have a system in place to get there. Make a plan. Make a plan. Set up yourself to win. Lots of people have the same goals, but why do only some people succeed? He says, now for the interesting question. If you completely ignored your goals and focused only on your system, would you still succeed? For example, if you were a basketball coach and you ignored your goal to win a championship and focused only on what your team does at practice each day, would you still get results? I think you would. I like that. I like that. The goal in any sport is to finish with the best score, but it would be ridiculous to spend the whole game staring at the scoreboard. The only way to actually win is to get better each day. In the words of three-time Super Bowl winner Bill Walsh, the score takes care of itself. The score takes care of itself. The same is true for other areas of life. If you want better results, then forget about setting goals. Focus on your system instead. What do I mean by this? Are goals completely useless? Of course not. Goals are good for setting a direction, but systems are best for making progress. A handful of problems arise when you spend too much time thinking about your goals and not enough time designing your systems. He gives us problem number 1. Winners and losers have the same goal. Haha. The goal has always been there. It's only when you implement a system of continuous small improvements that you achieve a different outcome. Problem number 2. Achieving a goal is only a momentary change. Well, in order to improve for good, you need to solve problems at the systems level. Fix the inputs, and the outputs will fix themselves. Problem number 3. Goals restrict your happiness. Well, a systems first mentality provides the antidote. When you fall in love with the process rather than the product, you don't have to wait to give yourself permission to be happy. You can be satisfied anytime your system is running. And problem number 4, goals are at odds with long-term progress. The purpose of setting goals is to win the game. The purpose of building systems is to continue playing the game. True long-term thinking is goalless thinking. It's not about any single accomplishment. It's about the cycle of endless refinement and continuous improvement. Ultimately, it is your commitment to the process that will determine your progress. It is your commitment to the process that will determine your progress. It's an excellent introduction into this book. Of course, I'm not reading it verbatim. He really wanted us to understand focusing on the overall system rather than a single goal is the core theme in this book. A lot of people have the same goal, but what is the system that's going to reach your potential? What is in your control? Focus on that. Work on a few ideas for different systems. And next week, we are getting right into it. How your habits shape your identity and vice versa. I'll see you then.